Before we do any of that, we're going to need a new project to actually work within. So let's go ahead and create that now. So let's do npm init AdonisJS at latest. And let's call this EdgeJS Components. Select the web project structure. Project name's fine. We can go ahead and select ESLint. We can do prettier. And let's go ahead and configure Webpack Encore so that we get those front-end assets compiling. Okay, awesome. Now let's go ahead and cd into EdgeJS Components. Clear that out. So we're now ready to go ahead and install the packages that we're going to need for our UI components. Now, PinesUI doesn't need anything itself installed. It just builds off of TailwindCSS and AlpineJS. So what we're going to need to do is install those two libraries. Let's go ahead and start with TailwindCSS. I already have it open here in the background. We have a guide on how to do this on Atticast if you want to follow that. There's also a guide directly within the documentation. You go get started there. Framework guide, scroll down a little bit. There is AdonisJS right there. Go ahead and click on that. It's going to start you at creating your project. We already did that. We can skip straight to step number 2. Go ahead and copy that, jump into our terminal, paste that in. It's going to get TailwindCSS installed as well as PostCSS, PostCSS Loader, Auto Prefixer. And then it kind of blends in a little bit down here, but this did also run npx TailwindCSS init-p, which created our TailwindCSS configuration as well as our PostCSS configuration file. Our next step is going to require opening up our project. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, I've got my project open here. Let's go ahead and dive down into our webpackconfig.js and let's run a search for PostCSS. And you should see Encore enable PostCSS loader. Go ahead and just uncomment that. So next, TailwindCSS does come with PurgeCSS. PurgeCSS is going to get rid of all of the unused styles from our style sheet whenever we actually build out our final dist files. So we'll want to go ahead and inform it what files to look at to determine whether or not we're using a class. And for that, that will be inside of our tailwindconfig.js. We can go ahead and copy this command right here at step number 4. Dive down to our tailwindconfig.js. And that copy command probably gave us everything, so we should be able to just overwrite what we have currently. And this content array is basically telling PurgeCSS to look within our resources directory, any folder within there, and any file ending with the extension edge.js, ts, jsx, tsx, and view. The next step that we need to do is paste those TailwindCSS directives within our CSS file. So we can go ahead and dive back into the documentation, give this a quick copy, dive back into our project, go within resources, CSS, app CSS, and we can go ahead and get rid of everything and just paste in what we've copied from the documentation. And now we should be good to go with TailwindCSS. We'll give that a test here in a second, but first let's go ahead and get AlpineJS installed and configured. So AlpineJS is a little bit more straightforward. We just need to dive back into our terminal here, npm I AlpineJS. All right, that installed just fine. Now we can go ahead and dive into our JS file, app.js. Leave that import in there and then go ahead and do import Alpine from AlpineJS. And then we just need to initialize it by running alpine.start. Give that a save. We should be good to go there. Let's dive into our views file, go into welcome. Let's go ahead and just replace everything inside of our main with a simple h1. We'll give this a class of text red 500. And then to test out Alpine, let's do x data equals text of hello. And we can do x text of text. Go ahead and give that a save. Jump back into our terminal, npm run dev. Should start up our server. Let's go ahead and open that up. And there we go. So we have red text of hello. So everything appears to be working just fine.